Welcome to the Panavox channel. Eric, I guess you've heard the really sad news about the passing of Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think everybody has by now.
Right,
We're
right.
we're a little bit late
Well,
talking
better,
about it, but
yeah,
uh I,
better late than
I
never, right?
yeah, better late than there.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Ozzy's passing?
Well, I mean, he definitely made his mark in the music world. He was I think he's considered like the founding father of heavy metal, you know. I'm not a big Ozzy expert, but the first experience I had with Ozzy was riding around with my friend Robert, and he had the Ozzy Live album on cassette,
Uh-huh.
and his car stereo. He had this thing. I guess it was like a preamp or something. But he would push the button on that thing, and the volume of his stereo would be so loud, it would just be like you were just sitting like in the front row of an Ozzy concert. And so I would ride around with him, and he'd be blasting his Ozzy live tape. And by the time I got out of his car, like my ears would be ringing. And that was my first experience listening to Ozzy music. And that was the concert with Randy Rhoads with all his blistering guitar riffs. And
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to think about Ozzy then, because I knew
Yeah.
the song Crazy Train, but I was still kind of on the fence.
Didn't you
But
tell me one
then,
time that you thought that the opening riff to Crazy Train was like running your hands over barbed wire or something? You said.
yeah, yeah, I guess I was just talking about really Randy Rhoads' guitar sound. I
Yeah.
just I found it to be a little bit abrasive.
Yeah.
Like I mean, he was a undeniably great guitar player, but it was just I didn't immediately latch on to that sound that Ozzy had at that period.
Yeah.
But then later on, another friend of mine came over one day when he had like this Black Sabbath greatest hits compilation, and it had this weird like you remember the old painter Bosch
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
with who painted these sort of nightmarish looking scenes, back in the Middle Ages or something. But he
Yeah.
brought over this Black Sabbath compilation album with this weird looking Bosch cover on it. I guess it might have been like an import album or something, but
Yeah.
I listened to that, and that was sort of my first time hearing, Black Sabbath's early music, and
Mhm.
that. And I really enjoyed that early sound that they had on you
Yeah.
know, or I guess their whole Ozzy period when Ozzy was in the band. But that
Yeah.
was that was that was when I kind of warmed up a little bit more to Ozzy's music, was hearing the old Black Sabbath music.
Yeah. I want to talk about that a little bit. I know
Sorry.
no, it's all right. Maybe you need a glass of water there if you have one handy.
Yeah, I had been dipping into the sweet leaf, I promise.
Okay. But yeah, yeah, that's the intro to one of those songs there. But getting to discussion about Ozzy's catalog of music. I've been a big fan for a very, very long time of him, and also particularly of Black Sabbath, all the members of Black Sabbath. I'm a huge Tommy Iommi fan. Big fan of Bill Ward's drumming, big fan of Geezer Butler's bass playing. They really were a super group in terms of their each contribution, because I mean, I find excellence in each contribution of each band member, particularly on the earlier albums. And so most of my attention on Ozzy and on Black Sabbath are on their work up to the Sabotage album. After that, Not so much. And I have listened to the Black Sabbath and the Ozzy releases. Ozzy is a solo artist, with Randy Rhoads and all that, and
Yeah.
with other guitar players and stuff. The what is it? The Ultimate Sin album that has the Shot in the Dark song on it. I don't know, remember who he was collaborating with at that time, but that there's a couple of memorable songs from that period. But I find that it's just my personal opinion. I think that Ozzy and Black Sabbath's greatest contributions came between the eponymous debut album in 1970 or 69, I think it was, and then
Mhm.
the Sabotage album. I think all of those albums were really, really strong albums. Uh,
Yeah.
and and
I I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And I talking about Ozzy, I think that he evolved from the first album to the second album to the third album. I mean, going on, and I don't know, was there a tendency in rock around that time to get your vocals up at a higher pitch to kind of be that that kind of thing that Robert Plant did with his falsetto
Yeah.
pitch, and there was Ian Gillan with Deep Purple, Highway
Yeah.
Sky,
Yeah. And
that kind of thing, and then but when,
John Anderson from Yes
in a different
kind of
way.
kind of kind of took it to the highest level possible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what is it? Steve Perry would Journey with the real high
Yeah. Oh
vocal
yeah.
register. Yeah,
Oh
but I
yeah.
mean, that kind of stuff. But initially, when you listen to Ozzy, that's not what he was going for. The first album, he has a much lower register. In fact, the title song for the album, Black Sabbath, the song that the band renamed itself after that song, they used to be called Earth. If you remember before that recording, but he says, "What is this that stands before me?" I mean, and there's like almost a baritone voice, and
Yeah. Yeah.
he
Right.
sings, "Oh no, God help me!" And so I really appreciate that track because it's not about the quality of his voice so much as is the quality of his dramatic presentation.
Oh
And
yeah.
and so
Yeah. He's great.
some people said, well, you know what? That's an evil, unchristian, satanic song. And I thought, no, it's the opposite. It's the perspective of somebody who is trying to maintain their Christian faith and is finding themselves confronted with something evil and
Yeah.
how they're reacting to it with horror. So I don't know how people could conflate that with being satanic. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
I agree with you on that.
but he had
But I do love that spooky album cover on that
yeah,
first album
yeah,
with
that's
that
quite
kind of mysterious looking woman and the like all the weird looking trees and everything. That's a
yeah.
cool,
It's
just a
supposed to
cool
be
album cover.
Yeah, it's supposed to evoke horror. It's supposed to evoke fear, horror, or evil, or dread, or whatever. But if you listen carefully to the lyrics of that first album, there's nothing satanic about it or unchristian about it. Well, you may
Yeah.
disagree. Write that in the column in the comments below if you like. But I don't think that was ever meant to be, an album about worshiping the devil or something awful like that. But there is a song "The Wizard" on there, and I really like Ozzy's vocal delivery on that. That's a really really simple song. I mean, if you're just learning how to play guitar, you can probably figure out how to play "The Wizard" because it's just da 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 da. It's just like two chords there, and
Yeah.
the simplicity of it is very compelling. Then there's an incredible, Bill Ward does an incredible job on the drums there. But see, so this is the background that Ozzy is working with, and he does this harmonic, and he goes, without warning, the wizard walks by, and I'm just like, you could not have come up with a more perfect vocal for that type of a setup. just the way he dropped
Yeah.
it there. And
Right. Right.
so there are moments that Ozzy has on that first album, like when he does the warning, I was born without you, baby, but my feelings were a little bit too strong, just a little bit too strong. And I just love that vocal part with the crazy, wild blues guitar that goes in, because it's almost more of a blues composition than rock, but
Yeah.
he sounds really depressed and sad in there, and it's just so perfect for that feeling of discomfort, in a relationship gone bad. And uh,
Yeah.
I think that was the key in that earlier album, was that he had dramatic presentation, he had dramatic presence, and then in the second album he shows that he had a great, amazing set of pipes too. And
Mhm.
he kind of like opens up on that second album, and so you watch him develop as a vocalist over the course of these albums, and he has incredible range. When he gets into that song, what is it? We sailed the blues and the sky. That's what Across the Universe thing, where it's a very mellow, jazzy kind of song. There's some of these ballads that he does where people were saying, is that even him? Is that another singer? And it was like, no, it was Ozzy. He sang that one. He really did. Yeah, I did sing that. You thought it was somebody else? It wasn't Bill. It was me.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, well, he's able to change his voice to present himself in a different way. He was very versatile in that way, and had a lot of capacity. He could sing over acoustic guitar, sing over electric, sing different styles, and make it fit in a real natural, compelling way. I thought
Mhm.
he was a genius as a vocalist, really.
Yeah. So, so what's your favorite Ozzy song or favorite Black Sabbath song?
Ah, man, that's hard. That's really, really, really hard to do that one. But I mean, I don't know if I'll name a favorite one, but I think that the song "The Writ" is an example of Ozzy maybe at his finest in terms of technical ability, where he goes, the way I feel is the way I am. Another joker with a rock and roll band. It's like
Is that on Sabotage?
sabotage.
Yeah,
The way the
yeah,
way
yeah. I just heard that for the first time just a few months ago, actually.
I think that's an incredible performance, because he puts a lot of rage and fury into that vocal delivery. And then later on, I watched the documentary about how they had been, mistreated and abused by their manager. It basically took all their money, and so they were really
Oh,
venting a lot of anger at the way they had been tricked. And they're kind of calling the guy a devil. They said, "You want to know about satanic? Look how this guy stole all of our money. That's how he lied to us." So,
yeah.
so yeah, when they were talking about evil, like people said, well, we don't want you to listen to that because he's talking about, the evil and the devil. And I was like, yeah, if you knew his manager, you'd understand where he was coming from.
Well, I think my favorite Ozzy song has to be Snowblind.
Oh
I
yeah.
just I just love the melody and the chords and just everything about that song. It just takes me just so far like out into space, you know. I think that's just that song is a masterpiece, you know.
Yeah, that whole album is really strong. There are a number of incredible pieces on it. It's some of Tommy Iommi's best guitar work, and also some of Ozzy's best vocals are on that album. I think that one came out in '72. Volume 4 is, I believe, is what
Yeah, yeah,
album
I
is.
like that one.
Yeah, really amazing guitar work. And if you play electric guitar, you listen to an album like that, it gives you some ideas. You're like, oh, I could do something like that. There's I imagine a
Yeah.
lot of people got inspiration from.
Yeah, there were a lot of guitar players imitating Black Sabbath. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, for sure. But also, again, also the way that Ozzy would structure the vocals in a song. One of the things I liked about him was he knew when to be silent. He knew when to not sing over the guitar, to let the guitar
Yeah,
have its space, to let the drums have
right,
space.
right. And he was good at kind of balancing out, like he wouldn't sing along with the guitar player, like in
Mhm.
Snowblind, the guitar goes, da 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 da, and then the vocal comes in da 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 da
The counterpoint harmony.
da. It just kind of fits together like a puzzle, you know. He's like it's almost like call and response or something like that, you know.
Yeah, it's a
He had a real
complimentary. Yeah.
yeah, he had a real good sense of like melody, come thinking of melodies that complemented the sort of simplistic kind of you know guitar parts, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he was a real musician and he was a real member of the band. So it's like it wasn't just they were not just showcasing his vocals. His vocals were an integral part of the song. And you know, he didn't really lord it over his bandmates.
mhm.
That's one of the things I liked about Ozzy is he seemed to me that in a lot of ways he was kind of a humble guy. He didn't really I don't think he really had an attitude, at least when he was Black Sabbath, where it was kind of like, you know, without me, you guys are nothing. I'm the star man. You know, he
Right,
wasn't one of
yeah,
those types of guys. You know, he knew
right,
that it was kind of a Four Musketeers situation, and I think that's how he saw it. And even
yeah,
when he was a solo artist, one thing that I read about him in the papers that people really liked to work with him because he was very deferential to the other musicians that he was working with, and he saw himself as a collaborator. He didn't try to, you know, tell everybody what to, I mean, I guess he was kind of the boss because it was, you know, his group or whatever, but
yeah,
he had a reputation as being somebody who was good to work with. You know, he did have some substance abuse problems that it would, you know, create a difficulty for him in his relationships with other people. Towards the end, I think he really cleaned up his act. I think he became sober or clean or whatever you want to call it around the mid 1980s. He just kind of
mhm.
was kind of done with drugs and alcohol
Yeah,
and I think and you had his TV show, you watched him interacting with his family, and he seemed in a lot of ways seemed like a pretty wholesome guy. Um, I mean, there were some shenanigans in there and some, I mean, he could be a little testy sometimes, you know, but for the most
yeah,
part, he seemed like a generous, ethical, decent human being in most
mhm.
ways.
I think so too.
Yeah, so I liked him personally. I think he had good sympathies. You know, his lyrics, the ones that he wrote, and also the ones that he sang that I believe mostly Bill Ward wrote. Yeah, you know,
I think Geezer Butler wrote a lot of the lyrics
maybe
too.
they both did. Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, Ozzy wrote some of the lyrics himself. But you know, he had to accept to sing these lyrics and a lot of good lyrical content. It shows where his heart was, that he had sympathy for other people, and it comes through with a lot of his music. You know, sympathy for difficult times. A lot of his music is about suffering and problems, and yeah, some of it's about you know love and relationships too. You know,
yeah,
and he kind of explored a wide palette of topics in his songs.
yeah. I guess in the context of metal or heavy metal music, he was like he didn't have that bravado like you hear with some of these metal singers, like just like
Egomaniacs.
yeah,
Maniac.
ego. He wasn't an egomaniac. He was like you said, he was just singing about his like problems and things, like
Yeah.
so. I respect that about him.
Yeah, so he's a not somebody. I mean, his death is an important thing. It marks a big milestone in the history of popular music. He was a once in a generation type of a performer, and you know, there's never going to be another Ozzy Osbourne. There's no doubt about it. He was a one of a kind figure. So we salute you, Ozzy. We appreciate the music and everything you contributed to our lives, and you will be missed.